Soy Cristina, profesora de un colegio público de Madrid. Mario Benedetti decía que cuando teníamos todas las respuestas nos cambiaron las preguntas. Yo creo que la sociedad hoy en día va demasiado deprisa. Entonces, ¿usted qué piensa? ¿Cuál es la función de las preguntas en el aprendizaje de los niños?
That's itself a big question. But I have to tell you something about the first part of what you said, that that things change very quickly. Now, everybody knows that. The experiments that I did over all these years, they are not like science experiments. You know why? Because when you do an experiment in science, like for example, Galileo found out how pendulums work. If you take a pendulum, it still moves the same way. Because the world doesn't change. The physical world doesn't change. But when you are doing experiments with the internet, the world is changing at the same time. So what is the conclusion 10 years ago may not work today at all. Okay? It's very difficult to work under those circumstances. So to teachers, what I say is, what can you do in this situation where there could be questions to which you don't know the answer? There could be questions that you have not even thought about. The only thing you can say to the children is, you find out. Isn't it? What else can we do? It's like if there were a group of children and if there was a forest, an unknown forest that you don't know anything about, and the children want to go there. What will you say to them? My advice to teachers would be to say, you go there, I'll come with you. That's very important. You're not going to say, go there, I'm going to stand here and have my coffee. Okay? You say, you go there and I'll come with you. You show me. So that's how I would treat the questions which are about the unknown. You have to look at each subject and ask yourself, what are the big unknowns in it? For example, to give you an example, earthquakes. Okay. We all know about earthquakes. We know they're terrible. They're there in the school curriculum. Teachers have to teach about earthquakes. So when you teach about earthquakes, you teach everything you know about earthquakes, and you tell the children. And the children sit there yawning, and okay, and they're writing it down. You don't have to do it that way, you know that. In a soul, you would just say, wait, you tell me. You find out about earthquakes and you tell me. But there is a big, important question about earthquakes. We can't predict when an earthquake will happen. Can anybody calculate and tell me when will the next earthquake happen and where? No, nobody can. So the big question would be, why is it, after so many thousands of years of science, we can't predict where an earthquake will be? That, if you do in a soul, even the internet doesn't know. Okay? So the big questions, according to me, should be the questions to which no one knows the answer. And I like those questions. I think you'll like those questions also. Wouldn't you like a question to which no one knows the answer? Rather than a question to which the teacher knows the answer and is not telling you.
Entonces, ¿cuál cree usted que son las grandes preguntas en educación hoy en día?
Okay, so the big questions in education, you're not going to like them. I can tell you this. Okay, let me put it this way. Would you agree, both children and grown-ups, would you agree that the purpose of school is to produce happy, healthy, and useful people? I don't think anybody will disagree with that, right? Happy, healthy, useful. So let's take the three things one by one. happy. Does anybody know what happy means or how to measure it? No? So then, how are we going to produce happy people if we don't know what it is and how to measure it? Okay, second point, healthy. So now you'll say, okay, this one is easy. We know what is healthy. You must have the right body temperature, you must have the right blood pressure, you must have the right amount of sugar in your blood, you must have this, you must have that. But if you have all of those, does it necessarily mean that you're healthy? Well, the answer actually, unfortunately, is no. Doctors don't really know why some people are healthy and some people are not, in spite of all these numbers. So we don't know healthy. And the third one, useful. So you are a teacher, you're going to make the children useful. When? Well, 20 years from now, when they are in their jobs. Do we know anything about the world 20 years from now? Nothing. Like you said, we don't even know. We don't know what's going to happen next year, forget about 20 years. So how are we going to make them useful after 20 years? We don't know. Now, this is very depressing, isn't it? Happy, healthy, useful, we can't define any of those. We know this is what school is supposed to do, but we don't know how to measure them. So what do we measure instead? We measure things like, we ask questions like, a steel ball of mass 1 kilogram is dropped from a height of 3 meters. At what force will it hit the ground? But so what if you don't know? Does it matter? If you had your smartphone, it will tell you in 2 seconds. Okay? So we end up measuring the wrong things. So what are the big questions in education? I think there's one huge question. What shall we measure? What is assessment? All the students here know about exams. Do you like exams? No. Yeah, exactly. I don't like exams either. Why don't we like exams? Because, I'll tell you what one child told me in Britain quite recently. A young boy, I think about 14, 15 years old. He showed me a GCSE, that's a big exam in England. They showed me a GCSE question, some long, complicated question. He said, this is an exam question. And he's looking at me and saying, but why are they asking me this question? First. And secondly, why have they taken away my phone? Okay. So, don't you feel that way? That, okay, you have to ask me a question, then give me my phone back. All right. Every grown-up person in this room, as soon as this program is over and they go out, if they have a question in their minds, they'll pull out their phone. So why do they take it away during an exam? We are measuring the wrong thing. We are measuring something from 200 or 300 years ago when they didn't have any technology. So it was important to find out, do you remember everything? It's no longer very important. We are measuring the wrong thing and we don't know what the right measures are. So we're actually in real bad shape that way. Another important question in education. How much do you need to know? I guess many of the children and all of the adults in this room know or had learned how to solve an equation, a quadratic equation. X squared plus 3x is equal to this much. Remember? We all learned how to solve a quadratic equation. Have you ever solved a quadratic equation after school? I don't think you've ever solved one. Okay? So why were we taught how to solve a quadratic equation and why were we examined whether we can solve a quadratic equation? Was because maybe one day You will face a quadratic equation, a dangerous looking quadratic equation, and you must be able to solve it. But you know you're never going to face that. Why were we taught trigonometry? Because you could be on a ship, lost. And with a compass, by pointing at the stars and doing a little trigonometry, you can figure out where you are. Do you need that today? You have a phone, you just have to say, where am I? Okay? So, do you need to know trigonometry? I could go on and on. We need to re-look at the entire list of things that we think we need to know, and we have to figure out, do we really need to know those things? Or are there other things which we need to know, but we don't learn them? I can give you an example. I'm sure almost everybody in this room uses WhatsApp, right? Or something similar, Messenger, WhatsApp, okay. Does anyone know how WhatsApp works? What happens when you type? Where does it go? How does it move? At what speed does it go? How does it reach the other phone? We don't know. But almost everybody in this room knows how a steam engine works. Isn't it true? Steam pressure, piston, cylinder, boom, boom, boom. We all know that. What sense does that make? Are you ever going to meet a steam engine? But you are meeting WhatsApp every minute, and you don't know how it works. Why can't you put WhatsApp into your school curriculum? The answer? Because there is no teacher who can teach it. By the time the teacher gets trained to teach WhatsApp, WhatsApp would have disappeared and something else would have come. It can't be taught, but it can be learnt. So, what would you do? You go there, I'll come with you. I think it would be, for teachers, very important to be able to say, you figure out how WhatsApp works, you tell me. Okay? And then we need to assess that. I don't know how. So, big questions in education. Why are we teaching what we are teaching? What is a curriculum? Why are we assessing the wrong things? It is very seldom that such fundamental questions arise in a subject. This won't happen in physics or chemistry or mathematics. Nobody will ever say, why do we have mathematics? We are in a strange place where we are raising this question, why do we have schools? For what? I know there are many school students here, and I can see some of them smiling and others looking very serious. Why do we have schools? I have a very simple answer to that. You go to school to meet your friends, right? Everything else follows after that. Okay. Another question, again, I hesitate to say this in front of school children, but to the grown-ups. Think back at your school days, on your school days, when you were, let's say, 10, 11, 12 years old. Can you remember a single lecture? You'd find it very, very hard. You will remember all the fights you had. You will remember all the other things which happened outside class. You'll remember the picnics, but you won't remember the lectures. What does that tell us? I'll leave that thought with you. So I wish I could tell you that the big questions in education are